And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. Salmon canning stimulated economic development on this coast. North Pacific is the oldest West Coast cannery still standing. From here, Bell Irving family shipped high-quality salmon directly to England before 1900. On today's Open Connection, we'll open our archives to bring you this story from 2001.
Simgiget Sigadam Hananak Nakagiget Habawasik Hatiget. Honored guests, we thank you for blessing us with your presence. We are on the traditional territories of the Tsimshian people today. So we shall present to you a Tsimshian Adao. This Adao is an important story for a large branch of the Kilowog clan. It is called the Adao of Nagunats.
It's an ancient story told in many shapes and forms by BC's coastal First Nations. Originally, this play was written for the Museum of Civilization and Man in Ottawa, but now, thanks to the work of a number of groups and individuals, it's come home.
George MacDonald, who had been the head CEO of the Museum of Civilization in Ottawa, had done a lot of his early research work here as a young man, digging in the various archaeological sites around the harbor. And so he has a heart for this area. And George Hayes had the connection. And so when the show ran in Ottawa, when it was completed there was this whole process that began to see the show come to a home on the North Coast. And the Tsimshian Tribal Council seemed like the natural party to sort of hold those goods. And they in turn turned towards us because we're running visitor programs already, and it can dovetail perfectly into what we do.
The play came equipped with a whole slew of wonderful props and costumes, but surprisingly, no script, which initially posed some problems for its director.
We hadn't actually had a script. We had a videotape of the production as it was done at the Museum of Civilization, and we changed the format for that. Once the word got out that we were doing this, there was a lot of community support. Different people came forward, offered services, the school board, Ken Campbell, different people in Tsimshian community. And so once the ball got rolling, it was really quite easy, and it fell together quite naturally. Everybody in the cast has had some acting or dance experience, whether it's in modern dance or traditional First Nations dance, whether it's in performance of that nature, or whether it's in a theater background. It's been quite unique, bringing together the First Nations stories and the dance and the modern dance and modern theater. So we've really kind of taken liberally from everywhere we could.
Well, I'm part Haida, so this is a chance to learn more about First Nations culture, being raised in a non-native home. So it's an exposure to culture that I never had a chance to be exposed to it. Well, I guess I had a chance, but I didn't explore before now.
I'm part Tsimshian myself, and I'd like to be able to educate people in our history, right? Because it's a dying history. Not too many people are getting involved in it, and I'm glad to see that we have half our cast now as First Nations, and they're really eager to learn this.
Here, something.
There was a group of hunters that set out to hunt fur seals ancient long time ago, and then they're getting ready to get to their spot, but they weren't there quite yet. There were about another 2 days of paddling they had to do, and they anchored at this one area which they call the Gander Islands. And when their anchor dropped, it hit the house of the Spanatnak of Naganaks, and the head hunter was Tamsk, and Naganak sent one of his slaves, an angelfish, to go and see what was going on, and then Tams, by being upset by like the angelfish splashing and hitting the boat, he ripped the fins off and threw him back into the water. And as a punishment, Naganaks took him down under the sea for 5 years and sent them back with the knowledge of the crests and the symbols. And we made sure to tell him do not disrespect any of the animals of the sea and of land and the air too.
See my nephew, O great chief. Whenever he or his people are near your abode, do them no harm. Rather help them on their journeys. But for your part, Camp, you must instruct your people to respect us in return. You must respect all the creatures of the sea, and of the air, and of the land too.
People of the Salmon is finished for this year, but it returns again to North Pacific Cannery Village Museum next spring when the new season begins.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Humans have been marking their skin for thousands of years. Around the world, across cultures, tattoos have held countless different significances and for a variety of reasons. To protect from evil, declare love, signify status or religious belief, as adornments, and even forms of punishment. Let us return to the archives as an anthropologist gives some background on tattoos.
The sound of a tattoo gun piercing skin. It's something that's only become familiar to many of us in the last couple of decades or so. It's a phenomenon that's evolved into something trendy to do or as a way to express oneself. 50 years ago, it was looked upon as something only outsiders or extremists did. Now, just about every segment of our population considers it normal. But tattooing wasn't always just for bikers, sailors, or circus performers. It's an art form that's been around for thousands of years.
The origins of the word tattoo are actually Polynesian. The peoples of Polynesia, the Tahiti, the Marquesas Islands, of Tonga, were renowned for their tattooing of faces as well as other body parts. And it was quite beautiful in the sense that it was a living art form. It was body decoration on a person, on a moving human being, changing as the person moved through the life course and also through the actual physical space.
Berthume says tattooing for the Polynesian cultures was not only for beautification purposes. Many members of tribes across the South Pacific believed that tattooing was a form of protection and of bravery because it was always extremely painful. Getting tattooed was also considered spiritual and in many tribes indicated a high social status.
Tattoos are markers or signs of social status, of gender, and of power. And essentially, they reveal something about themselves to others who see these people in tattoos. And of course, there's an aesthetic or a beautiful dimensions or a dimension of beauty to tattoos that to those peoples who make them, they are artists and they are literally working on a living canvas.
Tattooing oneself was not only limited to the Polynesian cultures. It extended from Asia to the Middle East and also here to the Northwest. Berthume says there are examples of Haida Gwaii and Masset around 1881 with tattoos.
In the figure on the right-hand side, you can actually see he's tattooed. And on his chest is a tattoo of a bear, a frontal view of a bear, or perhaps interpreted as two bears in profile. You can see the ears and the big eyes as well as the large teeth of the bear. And then on the arms, on the upper arm, is an example of a bear, full frontal view of a bear. And on his forearm is a killer whale design. And this is typical of the Haida art style, and the materials is a charcoal-based paint, and this particular example here.
Over the centuries, explorers from Europe traveling the world became intrigued with the art form and began to have some of it done themselves. Tattooing eventually came to North America in the late 1800s and early 1900s, but it was never popular among the general population. It was seen as savage and vulgar by many. But in the last 20 years, tattooing has grown in popularity. That's something very familiar to terrace tattoo artist Richard Lachance, who became interested in tattooing when he was a young boy and now has his own studio.
it's perceived more as an art than it has been, say, even 20 years ago. Up till then, it was basically sailors and bikers and this, well, it perceived that as anyway. And now it is a true art. Like, you can do portraits on skin, you can do heavy color, you can do black and gray, you can do anything you want on skin. So now it's being looked at as an art form. And there's even galleries that have skinned people. Like in San Francisco, they have a huge museum of just skins on the walls and things. And it's a museum and a gallery, just like any other art gallery.
And Lachance says artists now have come a long way in developing the art in North America. While the basic way of tattooing is the same, now there are hundreds of colors, designs, and cultural influences from all over the world.
The machines themselves haven't really changed much at all. This is your standard machine, and it's been pretty much the same for years, except for, you know, what they're made of and the quality of parts and this kind of thing. But the tattooing itself, the inks have come a long way. They used to be a mercury-based ink, which is extremely dangerous. Now they're all organic and alcohol-based and that kind of thing.
And he says the popularity of tattooing is here to stay. He says there will always be people who want to express themselves with art on their bodies, whatever it may be.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. In 1992, snowboarding buddies Jason Lee and Patrick McConnell were on a chairlift in Heavenly Valley, California, towards the close of ski season. The pair sat and pondered at the time what seemed to be a preposterous question: how to ride mountains once the snow had disappeared. Let us return to the archives to learn more about mountain boarding.
Ah, the pristine alpine wilderness of Hudson Bay Mountain. Silence broken by what some say might be the latest craze in outdoor adventure.
I just see them as the next thing where rollerblades were in the early 80s and where snowboards were in the late 80s.
If you've driven the road to Smithers Ski Hill this summer, you might have been surprised to see a big skateboard with oversized wheels fly by. This is a mountain board, and more often than not, the person on that board is Steve Schless.
And I just got hooked. I felt like I was 15 again. And when I moved up here, I bought a board.
38-year-old Schless is the manager of Outdoor Essentials in Smithers. He first discovered mountain boards while working in Vancouver. His favorite spot to go boarding is up at the Ski Hill Road, carving the dirt from top to bottom.
You got the rope tied to the back there?
We're up on the hill with Schless and two recent converts to the sport, 16-year-old Wade Lubers and 19-year-old Eric Trowbridge. Radio gear in the helmet and walkie-talkies help drivers and boarders keep in contact on the way down. Some pretty impressive moves come off the boards. This is the company's promotional video.
Code 17, we've got another jumper.
And as with any sport, there are safety concerns to keep in mind.
I do all the safety gear possible: knee pads, elbow pads, wrist guards, and a helmet, as well as some sort of hip and tailbone protection. And I also use BMX or mountain bike shoulder pads as well. Because the gravel is not as friendly as a ski hill. When you wipe out on snow, you slide. When you wipe out on gravel, you get chewed up.
So what does it cost to get into mountain boarding? Outdoor Essentials carries last year's models, about $450 for a complete package. Cheaper than this year's version, which are around $600, plus bindings for $75. It may look tricky, but Schless says you can use the same technique as other popular sports, like snowboarding. And he says the sport is suitable for a variety of athletic abilities.
So it's a lot of fun to be able to do the different terrain and get what you want out of it. If you want to do radical tricks, it's there. If you want to do just cruising runs, you can do that too.
In an area saluted by snow enthusiasts, this is an activity for when there's none of that white fluffy stuff to be found.
Certainly the snowboarders for off-season, and just people who like to get out in the woods. The mountain bikers are trying them out as something different. You can do a lot of mountain bike trails with these things, and I've had parents, as 45-year-old parents trying them out who are also snowboarders, and I've had their kids trying them out.
Looking good. I like it. That was a sweet fall.
One thing's for sure, gravel is not soft.
You ripped your shirt. I know. I just got this a month ago.
Schles says mountainboarding has been around for about 8 years. Boards have moved from prototypes to the ready-for-the-market industry that's developed in the last 4 years.
I came up here for a fishing trip, but I came and I saw the boards in the window and I had to try them.
Chris Mazzola is visiting the Northwest, and Schles took him out for a ride.
Well, in New York, you don't really have hills to ride on, and here they have dirt hills, and like where I go on golf course, and that's pretty much illegal. So,
speaking of legal, what about local bylaws?
I don't think if you ride it responsibly, I don't think anyone will give you a hard time about it. I've certainly not had any problems on the access road to the ski hill, which is considered a public road. It's not a driveway or anything. So
the sport is new, so it's a gray area when it comes to legalities. RCMP say if dangerous activities are going on, such as practices that affect other drivers or unsafe towing, there are a variety of charges, including these for the driver towing the border: dangerous driving, driving without due care and attention, or without reasonable consideration for others, and in more serious cases, criminal negligence. Smithers Highway Corporal Pat McTiernan says he hasn't heard of any complaints so far, adding it's a sport best kept away from public roadways. Schles has his own words for fellow riders.
I certainly push to ride responsibly and don't offend other people so that we don't cause problems for ourselves in the sport.
Back on the road, there are plenty of hills, tons of rocks, and lots of bumpy places to land. As the company's motto goes, snow melts, dirt doesn't.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Last year, 2 fishermen were disqualified after lead weights and fish fillets were discovered stuffed in fish submitted during the fishing derby. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives with a less scandalous Kitimat fishing derby.
It poured all weekend, but everyone kept under cover either by using an umbrella or by standing under Daddy's arm. The 14th annual Kitimat Chamber of Commerce Fish Derby has been deemed a great success despite the weather.
When they go fishing, the rain doesn't seem to bother them, so it hasn't held people back. They're coming out no matter what. It's Kitimat.
A total of 515 people purchased tickets, and a good portion of those tickets were for kids hoping to get in on some fishing action. After all, there was even a special category for the biggest salmon caught by anyone under 15.
I tried to catch a big fish to try and win, but I didn't get any luck, and now I'm going to just play.
The scales opened at 7 a.m. Saturday morning, and anglers had until Sunday evening at 6 to weigh in their fish. By the time the scales had officially closed, 42 coho and 2 halibut were weighed in, each one hoping to be the biggest so their owner could take home a nice $500 prize.
And are you having fun so far?
I am, but all these other people are standing around here, they're probably having fun too, but they obviously don't want to bother me because they want to eat.
The casting contest was definitely a popular event. Kids and adults alike tried their casting skills to see if their hook could land in the middle of the target.
It's a good opportunity for young kids to learn how to cast. Along with the adult category, it's a good time for them to learn how to.
Once the scales closed, the Rod and Gun Club was a full house, and some were forced to stand outside. The rule of this prize giveaway was if your ticket was drawn, you had to be there to claim your prize.
I just think it's a really a good event. I think we should thank the Chamber for putting it on. And I know that there were just a lot of people who donated prizes and their time to make this a community effort that was, I think, something that's really good for the community.
What is one word to sum up your weekend?
I'm not sure on that one.
Tell me how your corn is.
Not bad.
There were a number of visitors from out of town, out of province, and even from out of the country. This event is known for attracting a large crowd from places afar.
The Derby was considered of everybody, which is good. Everybody was involved, everybody's in it, which is a good community thing.
My favorite part was down the Doug Channel. Something I've seen I've never seen before, and a lot of people never seen. Have a whale right beside your boat, and I went eyeball to eyeball with it.
The largest salmon brought in weighed 13 pounds, and it was caught by Tracy Hiddle, a local fisherman whose living depends on the sport. He's a fishing guide.
Well, yesterday I was fishing upriver because the river's been quite high down low here. So got on a Coho 55 spoon and at the zipper mouth hole on the Kitimat River here.
The largest halibut weighed in at a whopping 118 pounds, and Ben Swanson took home a $500 prize. This fish definitely made you look twice.
It was huge. Humongous. For real.
From JHW Construction, a Shimano Magnum 1000 plus reel.
Big as a boat.
Keith Deal.
Tall as this guy.
Overall, the event was a great success, and even though people got a little wet, everyone can't wait until the 15th annual Kitimat Fish Derby.
What is one word to sum up your weekend?
Wet. I will be back. This is my first, but it won't be my last.
Just over a year ago, a transmission tower in the Camano Valley was being held in place by a Caterpillar tractor. It made for nervous times in Camano and Kitimat, as the continued operation of the Alcan smelter depended on the tower remaining in place till repairs were made. Today, huge amounts of rocks placed along the riverbank for protection are clearly visible. 50,000 cubic meters of rock had been placed along the Camano River. The flood was a 1 in 85-year event, and the road to the Camano dock, the community's lifeline, was also washed away, and large sections of what's called the Beach Road have been rebuilt. Several kilometers up the valley, the river changed course during the flooding and now runs close to several of the towers in the transmission corridor.
The area that I'm standing here today is, if we go back a year ago, the water was coming through here at a very rapid rate, enough to have one leg on the tower there behind me that buckled, and we had a front end or a cat that was stationed back a ways from it with a cable strung to the tower so that we could keep it in its upright position with the amount of water that was coming through here.
The damage cost millions of dollars to repair. If the rains eventually do start again this year, hopes are that the new dikes are sufficient protection. Lee Ellis, First News, in Camano.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.